Welcome back to Pure Michigan Sports. Is this episode 16? We're
Something like
losing
that.
count now. I moved like 3 states away, so excuse the. I'm just now noticing there's some shirts hanging up in the background. My office chair, as you can tell, sort of got damaged in the move, so it looks like I'm leaning back because I am. So if anyone is not just listening but watching this on YouTube or on our Substack or whatever it might be, yes, I am leaning back at an awkward angle. It's just the way. It's just the way
That's
it's
how
going
we're
to
rolling
be.
today, man.
But yeah, it's Pure Michigan Sports. It's Christian Peck-Dimit. Alex, I always point to the wrong side of the screen. Over on this side, it's Alex Deimel, and we're getting back at it. And for the first time in this podcast history, we're doing it during football season. Are we feeling good? Are we feeling excited? Obviously, it was only week 0. Should we just get right into the half dozen and go right
Uh,
to Michigan?
I mean, shit. At the same time, like, as much as I'm like so ready for it, like I want college football's here. I'm so excited. The
Mhm.
NFL literally starts fucking tomorrow. At the same, like, as much as I'm like, oh my god, can we get there? Can we get there? Can we get there? It does feel like it was here in 2 seconds, which is
Yeah.
great.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I guess going right into it. Kind of, did we have any higher expectations? Like, I'll be honest, I did not.
That's the
It's
trouble.
exactly what I thought it was going to be. Trying to spread the ball out and really being kind of, unsure of ourselves at quarterback, going with a couple of different guys. I mean, I think because the spotlight was on JJ so much last year, we kind of forgot how big of a quarterback room Michigan did, or Michigan has.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
a lot of guys, a lot of different arms, a lot of different legs too. Obviously, Will Johnson did his thing. I mean, he's never going to not do his thing unless like his ACL snaps. But again, like
Don't do that shit.
what's up?
Don't speak any of that into existence now. Come on.
I'm trying to say it so it doesn't happen, because if I say something will happen, it won't, and vice versa.
Fair enough.
I'm just a walking curse, I guess. Um, but no, you lost how much of your team? Like, it wasn't going to be great. I hoped it would have been better against a team like Fresno State. But think about, like, your entire offensive line pretty much gone. The Mason
Your
Graham.
entire offensive line, actually, all 5
Yeah.
year starters are now on an NFL roster of some point. So, for those of you that missed it, I think we get a habit of jumping in very quickly, which is good because I hate the small talk. I love getting right into it. Michigan started its title defense with a 30-10 win over Fresno State. Obviously, to anyone that watched that, I think you used the perfect word, Alex. This team was unsure of itself, especially on offense. It looked like a team that was struggling, in my opinion, to find its identity. Donovan Edwards only had 11 carries, only had 5 at halftime. I'm sure we'll talk more about that in a second here. The biggest thing is Fresno State is and should be a pretty easy win. And it was a win. We tripled their score, but I'll tell you, anyone that watched that game will tell you, just like I am right now, it wasn't easy and it wasn't pretty. On a scale of 1 to 10, though, outside of just this Fresno State game, look ahead to this season. How worried are we, Alex?
See, I don't think worried is the right word here, because there you had to manage expectations. I mean, there's a reason so much emphasis was put on the Natty last year. Is because this was Harbaugh's team. He finally got his guys after years of clearing out Brady Hoke and adjusting to this new landscape of college football. He finally got his team, and it was this again. He was on the hot seat. It was like, can your team do this, or else you're probably gone after this. And with that came him leaving, a ton of the staff leaving. I don't think I know we don't have the same OC because obviously it's Sharon Moore.
We lost like what,
We lost
6?
Jesse Winkler. We lost Jay Harbaugh. Special teams,
Mm.
like you said, lost our entire offensive
I got
line.
some. There is not a
Go for it.
single coach currently on the roster for Michigan that is in the exact same position they were last year, to your point.
And there's maybe, well, let's think. Donovan Edwards had a
You're
decent amount
saying
of playing time.
offensively?
Yeah, offensively, Donovan Edwards, Colston Loveland.
Of course, yeah. Preseason All-American.
Who am I missing? I mean,
Kind of
let's.
it.
I guess Samaj Morgan
Mullings,
had
yeah.
some. I
Mullings
remember
got
Tyler
a
Morris had
carry in there somewhere.
some shit, and then defensively you got Makari Page, Mason Graham.
Defensively, you get a fair amount of the starters back, to be honest with you. Defensively, I think always, you're talking about managing expectations. My expectations, and we've talked about it on this show, was that defense is going to be, or is going to have to be, a lot of this team because that offense, it struggled.
It's a young
Struggled.
it's a young offense. It's a new OC. It's in a lot of ways a very different offense. Again, I don't think they found their identity. They clearly had their Harbaugh, Sharon Moore identity. They're gonna have to have a new one now that Harbaugh's gone. And it's not going to be pretty, I think is how I would put it. So I wouldn't say worried. I'll state the obvious. I don't think this is a national championship team this year. And no, I'm not going to root for Michigan State. I know I'm wearing all green right now. It's just how it happened today. But no, again, it was the expectation was there that this is not going to be another undefeated national championship team. You're lacking a lot on offense, and it definitely wasn't as pretty as I would have hoped. But panic button, I don't think we're pressing that yet.
So scale of 1 to 10 then. How are we feeling?
Or
It doesn't have to be worried.
I'd say
Scale 1 to 10, how are we
like-
feeling?
like a 5. Like I think part of it is because there's still that high. I still have that high from the national championship.
Here's
It
the
took
thing, though.
so long.
Not every season is natty or bust. You know what I mean? We're no longer on the natty level. I get it. That's fine. But we're now every other college football team in America where the low end for this team, to me, the floor is still 8 wins, which 90% of programs dream of. That's what I'm saying. How are we feeling about this season? Just, it doesn't have to be natty. It's probably not going to be. But I think there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I think we all sort of had natty hopes going into week 1 of like maybe it all fits, maybe it all works. I'm not going to say those are immediately dashed and there's zero natty chances now, but it feels like you should adjust your feelings on this season overall. Do you have a new record prediction? I know you texted me one sort of in anger during the game, but looking ahead to this season, it's not exactly a cakewalk. What do you think Michigan probably comes out with record-wise here?
I'm gonna go with 8-4.
Okay.
I think that's it. I think Texas this weekend will be a struggle. I do think we cover, if that helps. I do think our defense is actually, there's something to be spoken of. I see a loss to Oregon. I see a loss to OSU. You know what? I could go with the 9 wins. I do think we have the power to beat USC. I think Miller Moss just played an abysmally poor defensive team in LSU.
Fair.
Even though the over didn't hit. I don't think USC is necessarily a threat. And I do think that'll give Michigan some time to, in a way, settle in, get
You're
some
not
games under
buying
their belt.
USC hype?
No.
I'll
Hell
tell you
no.
what, I thought they looked scary as all hell going against LSU. Granted, you're right. Not the greatest of defenses to speak of, but they certainly have a better one than last year. And while that's a low bar, I don't know. As a Michigan fan, just the same as you are, I was watching that game sweating, knowing we've got them in a couple of weeks here.
But how long have people been drinking this Cliff Kingsbury Kool-Aid? For so damn long.
You're getting rid of. You got no hype in Kingsbury at all. You're just shitting on everybody now.
Hell no. That guy. There's my thing is he was kind of brought in. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was brought in as this quarterback guy, right? He was known as like this He was a QB's coach.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he couldn't win with the guy that went 1-1.
couldn't
went
win.
1-1.
You had a fucking terrible defense. You had the worst defense in the conference that prides itself on terrible defenses.
But if he can't win with what people are, not even people, what the NFL deemed as the best player in college football last year, if you can't win with him, how are you going to win without him?
Because you have an entirely different roster. I think that's the thing about the transfer portal in general, and we're seeing it with Michigan now to a lesser extent. It's more graduation that's hitting you. Same thing in basketball. Same thing in football. Every year, separate from the year past, you almost have to reset. This is more of a discussion of basketball, but it's true just as much in football. So much of your roster building, you're now looking at it like a pro team, where high school recruits that used to be obviously the entirety of your recruiting are now like the draft for your pro team. Like if I'm Sharon Moore running Michigan, your high school recruits are the college football draft. You're getting your rookies in, and you want actual starters, you go out and you buy them in the transfer portal. As sucky as that is, it does allow programs to have shitty years, have terrible defenses, and snap their fingers and reset year to year. I don't think just because he had a shitty defense and he had this or that or lacked it means that they're immediately going to be bad the next year. You could have bought in 2020 going into 2021. We just talked about it with Harbaugh. You could have said, this dude's going to be terrible. He can't coach this. He can't coach that. He can't win the big game was, of course, the big knock on him. He can't, coach good wide receivers. He can't do this. He can't run a pro-style offense. Those were knocks for Harbaugh going into then 3 straight years of college football playoff appearances. I don't think can you just write off a coach and a whole program because of a couple bad years? That'd be a little patience, right?
Yeah, I guess patience is key there. The argument I'll make for Harbaugh that this is where I could be wrong. Or it's not even Kingsbury anymore. It's we've been saying the wrong fucking name. It's Lincoln Riley. It's not Kingsbury.
I'm not gonna lie to you. You've been saying Kingsbury this whole time, and I've been thinking Lincoln Riley in my head.
Yeah,
it's been a long day.
I get those two confused, but no, it's Lincoln Riley. I do think, and this is my weird brain. I do think you have some karma for leaving Oklahoma the way he did, but it's also he got to USC 2022.
That sounds right.
He's only had 2-3 years there. Think about how long it took Harbaugh to build his team and build his guys and figure out what worked.
But it's a new face of college football now. You got a whole new landscape, dude. It's
even
hard.
with a new landscape though. Like, look, OSU. People were saying the same shit about OSU as they are last year as they were this year, talking about how great Kyle Trask was going to be. Or Kyle Trask, Jesus, well, I am so fucking off with my names today. Kyle McCord. Talking about how great he was going to be, how great their offense was, how they were going to dominate. They've literally been ranked every single fucking year. It's been Ohio State over Michigan in the rankings. Every single time.
All right.
And look what has happened.
Let's shift now. How do we feel about OSU? How do we feel about the top of this Big Ten conference? Because it's powerhouse packed. And we've got both Oregon and OSU, of course, both top 10 teams on the schedule in the last month of the season. I'm marking those down both as losses, but how do we feel about the top of the Big Ten right now?
I think Oregon, there's more than there was to be desired this week. I think Oregon will take some time. It was definitely the struggle bus there. But again, new quarterback, new system. It's going to take some adjusting in game. Like, you can practice it. Game is different. Game is always going to be different.
Mm-hmm. The truth.
So I think that'll be a little bit. I'll give Oregon some grace there. I was just so happy when Akron took the lead in the first quarter off that field goal. They went down, scored 3-0. I was like, fuck yeah, like, let's go. Yep. And then it all went to shit.
So we're not feeling OSU then as well?
I am. I think, I'm not happy about it, but I think they'll be a half decent team. Um,
All right. Okay.
I know I have to be objective here. They have a lot of talent. They are a talent star-studded roster.
I hate to say it, and there's as much. I'm trying to find something Michigan sitting around me to hold up. As much a Michigan fan as either side of this podcast combined. That may be the most talented roster in college football. I would never put money on it because I just couldn't bring myself to do that. That might be my natty pick, man. I don't think they can top
I
Georgia
will
with Carson
never
Beck
even
back.
I will never come close to ever picking Ohio State to win a national championship in anything. I don't,
Objectively,
if they have prime Tom Brady, prime
all right,
LaDainian Tomlinson, I will
all right,
never be picking them.
all right.
Again, I can't be
I get what
I
you're
can't be
going for.
objective.
I get what you're going for. I think this may damn well be the most talented roster in college football. And I know that
Yeah,
people don't like the Will Howard fit. I've been covering sports professionally in Kansas the last year.
he's a
I
dog.
feel damn good about him on that roster. And I know a lot of people don't. That's fine. Only time will tell. It's sports, it's educated guessing to a certain extent. I feel like he's got a toughness and a grit and an ability to make any throw that fits in with the absolute boatload of talent that you've got there. And it hurts. Believe me, it hurts to admit that. I think that's the best team in the Big Ten at the very least.
Now, here's my thought. Let's say by the grace of God, they don't win a natty this year, or they don't make it as far
Yeah.
as they are expected to go. Obviously, like you have the new playoff format, there's going to be more opportunities for them to make it further. But let's say they don't make like the final four. Is Ryan Day gone? I think he has to be, right?
No, dude. No.
But you're
Why would
telling
he
me
be gone?
because
Why would he be gone?
because he has the most talented roster in football and he still can't bring a national championship home.
Because he's
What
going to
excuses
because
or
he's going to
reasonings has he had
because
this year?
realistically, on paper, rivalry games, anything can happen. On paper, he's slated to beat Michigan this year, right? Based on the games that we just watched for Michigan. I'm saying on paper, I'd love Michigan to upset them. He probably wins that game, which has been a massive hurdle for him the last few years, right? That's step one. Step two is the fact that more than likely he'll win the Big Ten, another hurdle for him. It's been big for him to overcome. I'm holding up three fingers. I was on number two. Now here's number three. He's going to make the college football playoff again. I don't think
Okay, here's my
Ohio State fans, like Michigan fans, hold their coaches to a higher standard. I get that. That's one damn high standard. If you're consistently making the playoff and then losing in the playoff or in the natty is your version of losing the big game, I don't know, man.
I can understand that to a sense. I guess I'll change the hypothetical a little bit here. Oregon takes the Big Ten.
Yeah, okay. Are we
Is he
saying beating OSU in
Yes,
the chip?
like beating OSU either in the chip or in the regular season, and OSU are not in the Big Ten champions this year.
Okay.
Do you think it's safe to say the only thing saving Ryan Day from getting fired if he does not win the Big Ten is making a natty appearance?
I don't know about these are too far into the hypothetical range here.
Again, though,
because he's
it's the
still
most
gonna
talented. It's the most talented roster.
You're right, but he can lose to Oregon, who is probably the second or the third favorite. I'm guessing going into this season, the three best picks, most commonly picked teams to win the Natty: Oregon, OSU, and Georgia. If you lose to Oregon and that's your only loss in the season, and then you go win a playoff game, I think you're fine. I'd love to see Ryan Day fired. I'd love to see OSU fail.
I
But
do
I'm
want
just being
to
realistic, man.
I do want to emphasize that point though that you mentioned, like the standard that
Yeah.
blue blood college football programs have for their coaches, and like
I think it's
Harbaugh was
unrealistic.
literally 2 inches away from
Oh
getting
yeah.
gassed.
He was 2 and
Like,
4,
and that's
man.
not just fans wanting him. That's not just fans wanting him. That was they were like, dude, you gotta beat Ohio State.
They
Has to
restructured his
happen.
contract. They made it so much more incentive based. I mean, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
He went 2-4 in the 2020 year, and to come all the way around to a chip, whether it's tainted or not, and obviously it is, um, still a big deal. The way that, yeah, I think blue bloods hold their coaches to too high of a standard is a bit ridiculous, but discussion for a different time. We've been talking a lot of Michigan football. MSU opened their season with a win as well. We're talking about not pretty, ugly wins down in the dirt, down in the mud. That was one of them. MSU 16-10 over FAU. And no, it wasn't pretty. Yes, you had a bunch of turnovers. Yes, you couldn't do anything in the red
That
zone, but a
under
win is a
hits
win,
and
man.
that under
Oh, that's
betters
right. You bet the
under
under.
betters. It was beautiful. No, uh, it's kind of my philosophy with Michigan. It's been my philosophy with the Tigers. It kind of all revolves around the same thing. Bringing in a new coach, it's great. Obviously, had a lot of success over at Oregon State. I'm terrible with names today. I'm blanking on Michigan State's fucking head coach.
It's a
I'm
long
wearing all
day.
green. I should know what the hell I'm talking about.
That's so true. That's so true. You're wearing the green. Gotta
Oh my
have it.
god. Anyways, great run at Oregon State. It's going to take a while. It's not going to be pretty just yet.
Mm,
And Michigan State is a program that has been terrible for how long now?
true.
Really ever since D'Antonio left. They had that run where they beat Michigan in the year that Michigan went to
Run.
that run. Yes, I mean they were in the top 10.
Mm.
They had Kenneth Walker. They were a solid team, but ever since then it has been kind of shit. Things don't change overnight. Even in this landscape where you can buy players and buy players and buy players and do all this, things still cannot change overnight. So I do it's no surprise that that's another close game. I think I hoped Michigan would do better than they did. Michigan
No.
State, if you want to talk a team that fit the expectation exactly, it
Mm.
was ugly wins against a team like Florida Atlantic.
Hey,
To a
man.
T.
A win is a win. And I'm to a point now. I think I just have a fetish for cheering for underdogs here. It was nice to see MSU get the win. Would I like obviously mid game while I'm watching the Michigan fan in me like wants MSU to lose these games, but in the least disrespectful way possible, it's nice to see them like get some wins there. But no, it wasn't pretty. You were 3 of 13 on third down, which is only topped by the 2 of 15 that FAU was. You had 2 picks, if I'm remembering correctly. I believe both of them were in the red zone. It wasn't pretty, but you do have some bright spots, and we're trying to focus on that because we just spent the first 20 minutes of this show with a lot, a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
Lynch Adams as a dog, dude. I don't know if you saw him run. 9 carries for 101 stands out, but watching the game, the eye test, he has that dog in him, dude. He was finding lanes. He was lowering shoulders. I thought he looked really good. And for a team, I know this is going to sound very old head, get out my cane, I'll show you how to play this game type of thing. But when you've got a program that's struggling and you're trying to build it up, get the foundation down, get the trenches, get the run game going. I feel you can then build from there a program. That's a nice way to start. 9 carries, 101, a tutty. Solid day. And their receivers struggled just as much as Michigan's did. But a win
I
is a
mean,
win, and there's that old saying, and this applies to both schools of, you'd rather learn from an ugly win than an ugly loss. So
yeah.
you'll take it, I guess.
I mean, you're gonna have to start with the run when you've got your brand new child, your starting quarterback. There was 2 picks
It's
against
not looking
fucking
good.
Florida
Yeah.
Atlantic. Like that, you don't have a choice there. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to earn it
Mhm.
on the ground. They are currently, according to ESPN matchup predictor,
Grain of salt.
17.6% against Maryland this weekend.
Oh, that's mean. That feels intentional.
But the
That's tough.
spread is 8.5. So for
Ooh.
17%, 8.5 seems like a very close spread.
You know what?
Um,
I won't make it my pick of the week. I don't want to count against my record. If I'll probably throw $1 at +8.5. To be honest with you, I feel like their defense played well enough. They can stand and hang in a tight game.
yeah, this was a Maryland team that beat up on a really star-studded UConn team this year. Really showed their grit in a 50-7 win over. God, I can't believe UConn as a football team.
No, it's crazy, right?
That's not.
Some
That's
don't.
neither.
Some of the Big
Yeah,
East teams just don't.
at UConn's there fighting. I guess. But no, we'll see. I'm not high expectations for either Michigan football team this year, which is great that we still have the Lions.
On the
Uh,
relative scale, not high expectations for MSU is like 6 wins. Not high for Michigan is
Michigan
like 8.
is like,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
8 or 9.
absolutely. You got it. You're right. You got to have those scales there. I know you did pose this question earlier, and I do want to kind of transition into it, unless you had more on the MSU
No,
thing.
go.
Um, Biggest question mark
Oh
for
yeah.
Lions right now, because for me right now, it after training camp, it's just straight up injuries.
Okay, that
It
makes sense.
are we gonna lose Jahmyr Gibbs? Are we gonna lose JaMo again? Are we gonna lose Sewell?
Mhm.
Is Goff gonna get banged up at some point? Like our guys could not. It seemed like every other day there was a tweet about someone on the Lions getting hurt in practice.
You can play, I think, the what if injury game with any team at any point, but
That's
Alex, you're
true.
exactly right. There were a lot of hurts where you're sitting at your desk at work and you check your phone and go,
You're like,
shit.
son of a bitch. Yeah.
And they kept adding up. It
This
looks
is the
like
prayer circle. This
yeah,
is the prayer circle.
most of our heavy hitters should be back. Gibbs, I think, should be good to go for week 1. I think I saw Laporta will be good as well. Gibbs, I think the quote I saw was he's like 80 or 90% right now, which feels good and on track. And remember, when you got a 2-headed monster with Monty as well, you can.
Well, sorry. If you, if you go and click on the preview for Lions Rams, it
Yeah,
gives you season leaders. Obviously, the season hasn't started yet, so we're
yeah.
taking the preseason into effect. So
Oh,
Hendon Hooker is currently the team leader in passing yards for
Nate
the Lions, while
Sudfeld,
Sam
September.
Bennett is it for the Rams. Hendon Hooker is also the leader in receiving, rushing yards. I'm like, look at him, like, no, no,
I love it though. I love that he beat out Sudfeld because that's an
oh
ugly
yeah,
watch, bro. I have never seen one fan base uh, gang up on a guy who's not a starter, who has no like
it's
actual
Nate
impact
Sudfeld.
on the roster. Yeah, but I'm saying like never before have I seen one fan base gang up on someone who will have no impact on the season whatsoever negatively. Usually you're looking at like a Boban or like some sort of meme player where you're like
You
he really won't impact the season, but like dude, hell yeah, like
Dude,
he's
you
a
gotta
goat.
stop saying. Knock on wood that he doesn't impact the season when fucking Goff and
Well, he's
Hooker
gone
go
now.
down,
They
and then
cut
we're
him.
stuck with him.
Yeah, yeah. If him and Hooker go down, that's so true. But I
Yeah,
think I think if we get to that point, anyways, if you're on a third string quarterback, Hendon Hooker's the best that you can pray for. But yeah, the Lions season. I think I wanted to just pose this question because I feel like whenever we've talked about the Lions, it's been like, let's go. Maybe this is the year. This is a Super Bowl year. I think at this point, the national media has caught up with us and with this team where it's like, all right, everyone now recognizes this squad as a Super Bowl contender. And I feel like it's only the local team, the local reporters, the local people that have looked around and said, absolutely. But there's still question marks to be had with this team. Injuries, I think, is absolutely top of that list. Top of my list, Alex, was wide receiver 3. Who fills in behind Amon Ra and JaMo, which is big. Me in particular, actually, have been critical of JaMo, not so much hating on him, but more saying this is a massive year for him because he has to go from like a fringe wide receiver 4, like decoy, run a deep route every time, get one catch a game. He has to snap his fingers and become the second best receiver on a Super Bowl caliber roster. I think that's a big jump to make. Can he make it? I think so. Everything we've seen out of training camp, all of the reporting from early practice says he's at that level. But assuming that he is, there's a very short list of guys behind him. Now, this Lions offense benefits from Ben Johnson in that after you get past Amon-Ra, your next best weapons, you go Laporta, you go Gibbs, you go Monty, you go JaMo. You've got to get to that like sixth slot on best offensive weapons before you even get to your third wide receiver, really even to your second. But I still think that that is a major turning point and X factor this season. Can a guy like Khalif Raymond jump in here and be a legitimate like 500-yard receiver for us? Because if he can, this team is on that 49ers level, on that best team in the NFC level. But if he comes out and he has a 200-yard season and JaMo has, a handful of drops and like 700 receiving yards, suddenly you feel sort of iffy about the consistency of the passing attack. And I know I'm playing hypothetical game again, and we've done a lot of that today. But I feel like that's something to watch out for too. Injuries, you're right though. The health of this team, the cornerbacks room, I think should be all right because I think we've got a little bit more depth than we have in years past. But Gibbs and Monty, a great two-headed monster. But if Gibbs goes down, if Laporta goes down, same thing. List gets pretty short behind them.
It does. I do have faith in Brock Wright, and I do have faith in Monty. I have faith in Craig Reynolds, as weird as that sounds to say. I do think, and here's my comment on the whole passing game. I think yards won't be the measurable for that. It'll be drops, or it'll be missed targets, or it'll be something. I don't think it'll be yards because this is a team that is going to focus on Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is a offense that is going to style a lot after him. And obviously you need your wide receiver 2, you need your wide receiver 3, and you're right. It is a make or break year for JaMo, but it's important to remember it's from the wide receiver 2 position. You can't expect him to be the, leading receiver every game. You can't expect him to be, unfortunately, the first round pick because of the position he's in. Amon-Ra is going to be the target.
Yep.
He's going to be the main guy. You have Jameer, you have Monty. There is a lot of depth on this offense. There's a lot of depth, and weirdly enough, as soon as you hit like the bottom, it's gone. Which sounds like doesn't sound like that makes sense.
Though. No,
you've got a plethora. But again, when it comes to injuries, there is a certain threshold.
Oddly enough, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, there's a threshold you can hit, and as soon as you hit that bar, you're done.
I think more than any other team, maybe minus the 49ers in the league right now, if you want to say the whole league, probably throw in the Chiefs or maybe the Ravens. In the NFC, the 49ers are the only other team with as complete an offense. You have heavy hitters everywhere. You have dudes that could be 1,000-yard. You have dudes who could, again, both rush for 1,000 yards, 2 of them in your backfield. You have 1,000-yard potential receiver at both tight end and wide receiver. I think you've got a lot going for you offensively, but you're right. It feels oddly thin where if, say, Laporta tweaks his knee a little bit again, he's out 3 or 4 weeks, and JaMo, literally all JaMo has to do is not take a massive step forward, and suddenly you get a little bit thin at your receiving spots. And so I think maybe combine both our question marks to say, I'm a little bit worried about everyone just doing their jobs offensively, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think the 3.5 spread against the Rams is a little disrespectful.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, this is, again, Stafford hasn't even won a playoff game in Detroit. He lost last year by decent margin. I don't think the Rams got that much better in the offseason. I know they finally had a first round pick for the first time in like 10 years. But there's a reason the Lions are like right there up with the Super Bowl favorite contenders. I think 3.5 is a bit disrespectful. I would have gone with probably closer to 6 or 7. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of NFL spreads, that's pretty big.
Oh yeah, obviously.
So I would have probably set it closer to 5 or 6, but I'm not in Vegas. There's a reason I'm not a bookmaker, because I end up giving them my money anyways.
Fair.
You know,
Is that your
it's
pick of the week then? An alt spread?
no. I have a different one, a different Michigan centered one. I'm gonna go with, and I'll mention that one later. I do want to quickly touch on.
Oh, the Tigers.
Yep, I'm still frustrated. I'm still mad.
Okay, because I had to ask. Tigers fans have been getting more and more optimistic, and they've earned it. Been
Nope.
sliding up in the wild card, been looking better and better all the time. Winners of 7 of their last 10. They're back up to a positive run differential plus 14 now. And believe it or not, you sort of blinked in your 4.5 games out of the wild card, which isn't ideal, but you were as many as 9 or 10 at one point. So you got to be feeling good.
Nope.
Alex would disagree.
1,000%. And here's why. We're in the last month of the season here. You've got the Padres. You really only have one series that really controls your destiny, and that's in Kansas City towards the end of the month. Let me check. I want to say it's like the third. Yeah, you're in Kansas City the 16th through the 18th. You face Baltimore, you face Oakland, you face Colorado, you face Tampa, you face Chicago. The only series that really has playoff implications is that Kansas City game. There's that Kansas City series. So we're going to do all of this winning to have that series control our destiny and have nothing else to control it. As in, we're 4.5 games back now. Watch us get a half a game, and we're not even at the wild card, and then we're picking in the middle of the fucking draft next year again. And yes, I know torque. It doesn't really matter because it's clearly proven that torque is the proof that you don't need first 1-1 picks because he's been dog shit. But for the love of God, we're picking at the same spot in the draft every year, taking the same high school guys that are better, like the same high school shortstops and the same shit, and we're not getting guys up to the league for 40 fucking years. When are we going to learn that this is not the plan? Until something actually happens where we're getting closer and we have that young roster and that's great. But teams right now are either, let's be honest, they're either tanking or they're fighting for a playoff spot. And there is no middle ground.
And you don't count this as fighting for a playoff spot?
I count it as fighting. What the hell are we going to do in the playoffs? What are we going to do?
We've talked about this before.
Sorry, we have two guys. We have the Cy Young Award winner, which it's the fact that we're finally winning. We have a winning record with the Cy Young Award winner.
He may just get an over 500 record.
We just got over a 500 record. I'm so mad I can't even talk. And we have the best pitcher in baseball on our team.
Mm-hmm.
That should show that this is not a playoff-ready team at all. But this is something we still are fighting for. We had to DFA Urshela. We're still, Javi's still there. We're not going to go anywhere. We still have him eating up, 25% of our fucking cap space? We have Kenta Maeda as the second biggest contract on our team, and we're fighting for a playoff spot. Kenta fucking Maeda. Why? Why do you want to pick in the middle of the draft every year?
It's that Detroit curse, man, where it's like it seems like, and we've talked about this before, every single Detroit team fetishizes the idea of either squeaking into the playoffs or finishing just below and then not actually helping your team at all.
God, if this ambulance had any respect, it wouldn't be going off during the middle of my podcast recording. What in the world? But no, you're absolutely right. And here's the thing. I remember going on a rant a while back about how For the Red Wings every year, it was the 6th pick. It didn't matter
Yep.
where we finished.
Mhm.
We could be the worst team in the league or like right on the end. We were always going to get the 6th pick. Hindsight, I'd rather have that than what the Tigers are doing right now because we're going to have like the back of the lottery. I don't even know if we're going to be eligible for the lottery if we keep going at this rate. And it's just to barely not make the playoffs. Like, what are you going to do next year? Are you going to go out and get if you want to go out and fill that gap at third base and get a Bregman or a Moncada, I might feel a little bit better. But it's got to be a younger guy that you're not going to overpay for like you did with Javi. There you have to realize he's not going to have 20 years left of his prime, or actually scratch that. Like they might have 2 or 3 years left of their prime, if that.
Maybe.
So you can't go out and give him multi-million-dollar contracts.
So firmly then in the too little, too late category for the Tigers.
If that wasn't, if I wasn't effective enough in giving my opinion on that, let me say it now. It's way too little, way too late.
Yeah.
Why did you dump at the trade deadline if this was the plan?
Great point. I think I think you're right. Without
we gotta
further
move
ado,
on because my head starts.
Picks of the week.
Yeah.
Picks of the week.
Yeah.
I know you
wrong.
guys.
I love AJ Hinch, but Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'll go out and say it. I'm going my Michigan pick of the week. Over 42.5, Michigan, Texas.
Oh.
Wow. Vegas knows something I don't. I do not think it's going to be that low scoring of a game.
I
get Michigan's
two of
off
the better defenses. Texas defense can be damn good, brother.
Texas defense can be damn good, but so is Texas offense. And I do think that like this is a team that if Michigan can focus on ground pound, I think Michigan can at least make it close. And it's not like they're going to get shut out. I think both teams could easily put up at least 21 points. And if one doesn't, the other will make it up.
Interesting. Okay. I'm not mad at that. I won't be making that bet myself. Just because I trust that both those defenses too much. But there's something about Texas that just scares me that they may just run up the score a little bit. You might be right there. So I'm a little bit conflicted here. But I think my pick of the week right now is tomorrow night. As far as when we're recording this, it'll be tonight for Thursday night football, this Chiefs-Ravens game. I know that Ravens defense, damn good. Their secondary, legit. But I've got Rashee Rice over 62.5. I think you've got a couple of really solid new weapons in Xavier Worthy. And though I don't think he'll be ready for week 1, Hollywood Brown for the Chiefs and for Patrick Mahomes, I think that takes a little bit of getting used to. Live reps wise, that is. Obviously, they've had training camp and everything. I think it takes some time to get ready, to get some chemistry with your receivers. And I think in that, he's going to rely passing wise a little bit more on Travis Kelce, a little bit more on Rashee Rice. Granted, he's only in his second year, but he had a great rookie season, 62.5, the line for his receiving yards. I've got the over there. Frankly, just in general, whether you're betting on it or not.
Love that pick.
Oh, yeah. Whether you're betting on it or not, I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. Obviously, they scheduled it thinking that. I think it'll pay out. Should be a fun one. You had something interesting as well that you were telling me pre-show, that you wanted to add something about a former player.
Oh, yeah. This guy's Instagram just came up. I think he was getting like some Hall of Fame nomination. I want to say for his college. Here's what we'll do: is I'll name the college, I'll name the position. Not a Michigan guy.
Not a Michigan. Okay, nothing to do with Michigan or Detroit.
Nothing to do with Michigan. It's from Texas.
Oh.
And as soon as I say the college and the position, I think you'll get it. This might be the make or break to see if you're a true diehard college football fan or not, because this does go back a little bit of a ways. This is like when we were growing up. Played at Oregon.
Okay.
And he's fast, and he was running back.
Oh, running back. I was about to say Marcus Mariota.
A little bit older than that.
Earlier than that. Ooh. See, that might be testing me here. Who is it?
LaMichael James.
Oh, that's a name I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, man.
If you're listening to this right now, go Google this guy's highlight tape. There's a reason you used to see those like dark. It was like the dark green jerseys. There's a guy that made him famous before Marcus Mariota, and his name was LaMichael James because he was like the fastest guy. Like to me,
Okay.
at that time, he's like the fastest guy in the world.
What's the update though on this boy?
That he's alive.
Forgot he existed. Hell yeah.
Like I was like, oh my god, like I'm 8 years old again. I'm talking
Yeah.
about LaMichael James.
I love it.
So that was my, I guess, kind of like, where are they now? I don't know exactly what he's doing, but I was like, this guy's he was it. He was the
Hell
man.
yeah.
So shout out LaMichael James.
Shout
Not a
out
Michigan
our
guy.
random dudes that
Um,
forget exist. I love a good Instagram post where you're like, oh,
I remember this guy from when I
remember
was
this guy?
when I was a wee young lad. Yeah, that kind of settles it for me.
Yeah.
We did our picks. Hopefully we'll get back onto more of a routine here. Obviously, both settling into different aspects of life. It's a little bit hotter down where Christian is now, though.
Good Lord.
So hopefully we'll get back on a routine with that and with the blog. If you didn't know, we did start a Substack. You probably didn't know because I haven't been posting as much as I thought I would. But hopefully we'll get back on that too with, I'd really say like prime time sports season getting back into full swing. So keep an eye out for those. And yeah, this is why you do the outros because I suck at them.
Pure Michigan Sports everywhere on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Substack, which is free right now to subscribe. So go subscribe to that. Until next time, it's been a great little 50 minutes here spent with Alex Deimel, with Christian Peck-Dimit. It's Pure Michigan Sports.